Jake Morrison sat in the huge council chamber and watched 17 different alien species argue about humanity's future. His hands were folded on the metal table while strange sounds filled the air around him. Some aliens clicked their teeth. Others made buzzing noises, and a few just stared with too many eyes. Jake had been Earth's ambassador for 12 years, and he thought he understood how these meetings worked. Today would prove him wrong. The chamber looked like a giant bowl made of white stone. Floating platforms held each species' delegation, and bright lights made everything look cold and clean. Jake could see Captain Lisa Barnes sitting behind him, her uniform crisp and her face calm. She commanded the human security detail, but Jake knew she was really here to watch and learn. The military always wanted to know what the aliens were planning. Chancellor Vextar rose from his crystal platform. His body looked like living glass that changed colors when he moved. The translation device in Jake's ear turned the aliens' musical sounds into English words. We have reached a decision about the human expansion issue. The vote was fair and followed all proper procedures. Jake felt his stomach tighten. 3 years of talks had led to this moment. 3 years of humans trying to prove they deserved a place among the galactic powers. Earth's colonies in the outer systems were growing fast, and some alien species claimed humans were taking too much space too quickly. The Galactic Council has voted 16-1, Vexitar announced. His crystal body flashed bright blue. Humanity must stop all expansion beyond the current boundaries. No new colonies will be permitted in the outer rim sectors. The chamber filled with approving sounds from the alien delegates. Jake heard clicking, humming, and what sounded like satisfied sighs. Only one delegate remained silent. Clicktar from the Centauri system had not voted either way, but Vextar was not finished. Furthermore, all human settlements established in the past 5 years beyond the approved zones must be evacuated within 60 standard days. The settlers will be relocated to approved human space. Jake stood up slowly. His blue eyes moved across the chamber, looking at each alien face. Some looked smug, others seemed happy, but none showed any concern for what this decision really meant. 12 million people, Jake said quietly. His voice carried clearly in the suddenly quiet chamber. You are talking about 12 million human civilians. These are not soldiers or explorers. These are families with children, farmers, teachers, doctors. They have built homes and schools and entire communities on those worlds. The slug-like delegate from the hegemony slid forward on his mobility platform. Gorth's wet skin glistened under the chamber lights. The humans chose to expand without following proper authorization procedures. If they suffer consequences, they have only themselves to blame. Jake felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. He had spent his whole career believing that talking could solve problems. He thought aliens were just people who looked different but wanted the same things: peace, prosperity, safety for their families. But as he looked around the chamber, he saw something else entirely. The Zephyrian delegate made a musical sound that the translator turned into laughter. Perhaps this will teach the humans to follow the rules like civilized species. Civilized, Jake repeated. He gathered his papers with careful, slow movements. Yes, I see exactly how civilized you all are. Captain Barnes stood up behind him, along with the rest of the human delegation. The 8 humans in the chamber were vastly outnumbered, but Jake noticed something interesting. Several alien delegates shifted uncomfortably as the humans prepared to leave. I want to make something very clear, Jake said, turning back to face the assembled aliens. You just made a choice that will change everything. You chose to treat humanity like criminals for the crime of growing and building and expanding into empty space. You chose to ignore our rights and our needs. He paused, looking directly at Chancellor Vexitar. Most importantly, you chose to threaten millions of innocent people who trusted that the Galactic Council stood for justice and fairness. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the background hum of the life support system seemed to have stopped. I have been Earth's voice in this chamber for 12 years, Jake continued. I believed in diplomacy. I believed in compromise and cooperation. I believed that different species could work together despite their differences. He smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. You have just taught me that I was wrong. Humanity thanks the Galactic Council for this valuable lesson. As the human delegation walked toward the massive doors, Jake could hear whispered conversations starting. Behind them, some aliens sounded concerned, others confused. The Draconis delegate called out, "Ambassador Morrison, surely we can discuss terms." Jake stopped at the doorway and looked back one final time. "Terms? You mean like the terms you just dictated? To us?" "No. I think we understand your terms perfectly." The doors sealed behind them with a deep, final sound. In the corridor outside, Captain Barnes moved closer to Jake. "Sir, what happens now?" she asked quietly. Jake was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the millions of humans living peacefully on frontier worlds, building new lives under alien skies. He thought about the children playing in schoolyards on planets whose names the Council wanted to erase from human memory. "Now we go home and tell them exactly what happened here," Jake said. "We tell them that the Galactic Council has declared war on human expansion and threatened to destroy 12 million lives, and then we let humanity decide how to respond. And if humanity chooses to fight?" Jake looked at her with those cold blue eyes. "Captain, I have been watching these aliens for 12 years. They have lived in peace for so long that they have forgotten what war actually means. They think threats and votes can solve any problem." They walked through the long corridors of the council building, past windows that showed the busy traffic of the galactic capital. Ships from dozens of worlds moved through the sky, carrying goods and people in peaceful trade. "Humanity has never forgotten," Jake said quietly. "We have just been polite enough not to remind them." Outside, their transport ship waited to carry them back to Earth with news that would change the galaxy forever. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and watched the stars change from lines of light back to normal points as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Around her ship, 300 human vessels hung in the darkness, like angry metal sharks waiting to strike. This was the largest human military force ever assembled in one place, and Kate was about to use it to send a message that would echo across the galaxy. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres from his station, "we are receiving broadcasts from the Zephyrian border stations. They are offering immediate surrender." Kate nodded but did not smile. The plan was simple and brutal. The Galactic Council wanted to treat humanity like dangerous children who needed to be controlled. Fine. If they wanted dangerous, humanity would show them exactly what dangerous looked like. For 3 weeks, every human ship in space had been recalled. Colony vessels that had been traveling to new worlds turned around and came home. Exploration ships abandoned their missions and returned to human space. Merchant vessels stopped trading with alien worlds and brought their cargoes back to Earth and the core colonies. For the first time in 200 years, humanity was pulling all its resources together for one purpose. "Commander Chen," Kate called to her tactical officer. "What is the status of the hegemony defense grid?" Amy Chen checked her screens and shook her head. "They are powering up weapons and trying to lock onto our ships. Looks like Gorth decided he wants to fight after all." Kate almost felt sorry for them. Intelligence reports showed that most Council species had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Their weapons were old, their ships were designed for ceremony rather than combat, and their crews had never seen actual battle. Humanity, on the other hand, had never stopped preparing for war. Even during peaceful times, humans built better weapons and trained harder than anyone else. "Launch all fighters," Kate ordered. "Target their weapons platforms first. I want them to understand that this is not a negotiation." The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Fighter squadrons poured out of the larger ships like angry hornets, their engines leaving bright trails in the darkness. The hegemony defense grid tried to respond, but their targeting systems were too slow and their weapons too weak. Kate watched the tactical display as red dots representing enemy positions disappeared one by one. Gorth's mighty defense grid, which was supposed to protect the hegemony homeworld, lasted exactly 14 minutes. The orbital stations surrendered before the human ships even got close enough to board them. But Kate had no interest in occupying alien worlds. That was not how humans fought wars. They did not want to rule over other species or steal their homes. They wanted something much simpler and much more permanent. Open a channel to the hegemony government, Kate commanded. All frequencies. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Kate spoke clearly and calmly. To the leadership of the hegemony, this is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Human Defense Force. You have 72 hours to evacuate all hegemony citizens from the disputed border systems. After that time expires, those systems will become human territory by right of conquest. She paused, thinking carefully about her next words. Any hegemony forces that remain in those systems after the deadline will be considered hostile and will be destroyed. This is not a threat. This is a simple statement of fact. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers and life support systems. Kate could see her crew watching her, waiting to see what came next. Also send a message to the Galactic Council, she continued. Tell them that humanity is no longer interested in playing by their rules. Tell them that they created this situation when they chose to threaten innocent human civilians. Tell them that this is just the beginning. She closed the channel and turned to her fleet commanders. Set course for the Arcturian border. I want to visit them next. Admiral, asked Commander Chen, what about civilian casualties? The hegemony. Worlds have billions of people. Kate shook her head. We are not targeting civilians. We are taking empty space and resource-rich systems that the Council claimed humans could not settle. The aliens can keep their homeworlds. We just want them to understand that they cannot dictate where humans are allowed to live. Over the next week, the human fleet moved from system to system like a carefully planned storm. They did not destroy cities or kill innocent people. Instead, they eliminated military targets with surgical precision and claimed territory that had been declared off-limits to human expansion. The Arcturian Defense Fleet tried to intercept them near the Vega system. 20 ships against 300 should have been suicide, but the Arcturians were proud and thought their advanced technology would save them. The human ships used weapons that the aliens had never seen before, energy beams that could slice through the strongest armor, missiles that could track targets through hyperspace, fighter craft that moved faster than anything the Council had ever built. The battle lasted 6 minutes. Not a single human ship was damaged. The Arcturians surrendered so quickly that most of their crew survived, floating in escape pods and broadcasting requests for mercy. Kate accepted their surrender and gave them the same ultimatum she had given the hegemony. Evacuate the border systems or lose them forever. By the end of the month, humanity had claimed 7 star systems and demonstrated military superiority over 4 different Council species. But more importantly, they had shown the galaxy something that had been hidden for centuries. Admiral, reported Torres, we are receiving communications from several independent species, the Draconis Federation, the Free Colonies of Vega, and others. They are requesting human protection for their own territories. Kate smiled for the first time since the campaign began. It seems that word is spreading. Other species are learning that human protection might be more reliable than Council promises. What should we tell them? Kate looked out at the stars, thinking about the children playing on human colonies that the Council had tried to destroy. Tell them we will consider their requests, but first we need to finish teaching the Council their lesson. The war was far from over, but already Kate could see that it would end very differently than the Council expected. They thought they were punishing humanity for being too aggressive. Instead, they had unleashed something that would reshape the entire galaxy. Chancellor Vexitar's crystal body flickered with stress patterns as emergency reports flooded into his consciousness. His crystalline form, usually a steady blue glow, now flashed between red and yellow like a broken warning light. In 30 days, humanity had conquered 7 star systems, destroyed the military forces of 4 Council species, and claimed territory that had been under alien control for centuries. This cannot be happening, chittered the Arcturian delegate, her feathered crest standing straight up in distress. Humans are classified as a Class C species. Their technology should be generations behind ours. How are they defeating forces that have protected Council space for 1,000 years? Ambassador Clicktar sat quietly in his corner of the emergency session chamber, his compound eyes rotating independently as he processed intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The insectoid delegate had been studying human behavior for decades, And unlike his colleagues, he was not surprised by recent events. Perhaps, Kliktar said slowly, we made incorrect assumptions about human capabilities. The new hegemony, representative, a nervous creature named Slith who had replaced Gorth after the former ambassador suffered a complete mental breakdown, oozed forward on his mobility platform. Incorrect assumptions? They destroyed our entire border defense network in 14 minutes. 14 minutes. Those weapons platforms were supposed to be the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. Vextar's form flickered faster. Show me the tactical analysis of the human weapons. The chamber's main display activated, showing recordings from the hegemony battle. The human ships appeared on screen, sleek and deadly, their weapons firing beams of energy that cut through alien armor like it was made of paper. These energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases, reported the Carillion military advisor, his scaled hands shaking as he operated the controls. The humans are using particle beam technology that we believed was impossible to create. Their targeting systems are more accurate than our best computers. Their ships move faster than anything we have ever built. The Zephyrian delegate made a sound like breaking glass. But how? We have monitored human technology for centuries. We know exactly what they can build because they share all their research with the Council as required by the treaties. Kliktar made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Do they? Or do they share what they want us to think they can build? The chamber fell silent except for the various sounds of alien distress. Breathing, humming, clicking, and other noises that had no human equivalent filled the air. You are suggesting that humanity has been lying to the Council for centuries? Asked Vextar, his crystal form now flickering so fast it was almost painful to watch. I am suggesting that we assumed humans think like we do. Kliktar replied. We assumed that because we share all our technological advances freely, they must do the same. We assumed that because we have lived in peace for millennia, they must have forgotten how to wage war. He paused, consulting another report. Did you know that in the past 1,000 years, humanity has never once requested Council assistance in resolving conflicts? Every other species has called upon Council peacekeepers at least once. The humans have always handled their problems internally. What does that mean? Demanded the Arcturian delegate. It means that while we have been relying on Council protection and Council mediation, humans have been solving their own problems with their own methods. They have been fighting wars we never heard about, developing weapons we never saw, and building a military force that none of us understood. Slith, the hegemony delegate, was practically vibrating with panic. The humans are not just taking our territory. They are making examples of anyone who resists. The Carillion defense fleet tried to stop them near the Epsilon cluster. 27 ships, their newest and most powerful designs. What happened? Asked Vextar, though his stress pattern suggested he already knew. The humans destroyed them in 6 minutes. 6 minutes against our most advanced fleet. They used weapons that tore apart molecular bonds. They have technology that makes our best ships look like ancient relics. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Representatives from dozens of species started talking at once, their various languages creating a chaos of sound that even the translation systems could not sort out. Silence, Vextar commanded, his crystal form flashing bright white. We need solutions, not panic. Kliktar raised one of his forearms. I have been studying human history and culture for my entire career. May I share some observations? The chamber quieted, and Kliktar continued. Humans have a saying. Speak softly and carry a big stick. They have been speaking softly to us for centuries. We mistook this for weakness. We assumed that because they were polite and cooperative, they were also harmless. He gestured to the tactical displays still showing human ships destroying alien defenses. We were wrong. Humans are polite because they choose to be, not because they have to be. When they decide to stop being polite, they become something entirely different. But surely they cannot sustain this level of aggression, protested the Zephyrian delegate. Their economy, their population, their resources. Kliktar made that clicking sound again. According to our intelligence reports, human industrial capacity has increased by 300% in the past month. Every human colony is now producing weapons and ships at maximum efficiency. They are not straining their resources. They are just finally using them. Vextar's form had stopped flickering and was now a steady deep red color. How many star systems have they claimed? 47 as of this morning, reported the military advisor. But the more disturbing news is that several non-council species are requesting human protection. The Draconis Federation has offered to join a human alliance. The free colonies of Vega have asked for human defense agreements. They are building their own coalition, Vextar realized. They are not just rejecting council authority, they are replacing it. The chamber fell silent again as the full implications became clear. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace through diplomacy and compromise. They had assumed that all intelligent species wanted the same thing: stability, cooperation, and gradual progress. Now they were facing a species that had different ideas entirely. Humans wanted to expand and grow and build new things. When told they could not do this, they had chosen to fight rather than submit. "What do we do?" asked Slith plaintively. "My people are fleeing their own colonies. Human ships appear in our systems, give us 72 hours to evacuate, and then claim our worlds. We cannot fight them. We cannot negotiate with them. What options do we have left?" Kliktar turned all four of his eyes toward the hegemony delegate. "We have exactly one option. We can learn to live with the new reality that humans are creating, or we can continue to oppose them and watch our civilizations crumble." Outside the council chamber, human ships patrolled space that had been under alien control for centuries, and on dozens of worlds, people were learning that the galaxy had new masters now. General Nathan Cross walked through the hydroponics bay of New Arizona Colony, watching children play among the tall green plants while their parents worked in the growing fields. The sound of laughter echoed off the transparent aluminum walls, and Nathan could see Earth-normal blue sky through the dome overhead. These were the people the Galactic Council had ordered humanity to abandon. These families who had built schools and hospitals and libraries on a world they thought belonged to them. "Sir," Colonel Beth Martinez approached with a data tablet in her hands, "the Council has sent another peace envoy. They are requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations." Nathan looked up from watching a group of kids chase each other between the tomato plants. Their parents smiled and waved at him, recognizing the uniform of the man who had kept them safe. "What is our current territorial status, Colonel?" Beth checked her data. 47 systems under full human control, sir. We have established sovereignty over 12 colony worlds that were under alien oversight. And we have claimed mining rights to 15 asteroid fields that were supposedly protected space. Human casualties? On our side, 37 wounded personnel across all engagements. No deaths. Beth paused, checking another screen. Enemy military casualties are approximately 40,000 across all species we have engaged. Most of their forces surrendered rather than fight once they realized they could not win. Nathan nodded slowly. That was the thing about humans that aliens had never understood. They did not fight wars just to win battles. They fought wars to make sure they never had to fight the same war again. Overwhelming force, applied with surgical precision, tended to discourage future aggression. What about civilian populations? In the territories we have claimed? That is where it gets interesting, sir. Beth smiled as she scrolled through reports. Intelligence indicates that several council species are actually requesting human protection for their own colonies. Apparently, our territorial expansion has provided better security and more stable government than the council's peacekeeping forces ever managed. Nathan smiled grimly. The Draconis Federation? They have formally requested to join our confederation. So have the free colonies of Vega, the Independent Worlds Alliance, and 3 smaller species whose names I cannot pronounce. Beth looked up from her tablet. Sir, we are not just winning a war. We are building a new galactic government. Through the clear walls of the hydroponics bay, Nathan could see the UES Liberty maintaining orbit around New Arizona. The massive dreadnought was one of humanity's newest designs, bristling with weapons that the Council did not even know existed. Its presence in the sky was a reminder to everyone on the planet that humanity now had the power to protect what it valued. "Tell me about Ambassador Morrison's mission," Nathan said, walking toward the observation deck. "He is meeting with the full Council today, not just their peace envoys. He says humanity has terms of its own to present." Beth followed him up the stairs to where they could see more of the colony spread out below them. The Council, apparently, believes this is a standard territorial dispute that can be resolved through negotiation. Nathan laughed, a sound with no humor in it. They still do not understand, do they? This was never about territory. This was about respect. Below them, the colony bustled with activity. Children attended school in buildings their parents had constructed. Doctors worked in hospitals that served both humans and the few aliens who had chosen to stay under human protection. Engineers maintained power systems and transportation networks that were more efficient than anything the Council had ever built. "Sir, if I may ask, what exactly are our terms going to be?" Nathan turned to look at her directly. "Colonel, for 3 centuries humanity has tried to work within the galactic system. We followed their rules, respected their boundaries, and shared our technology freely. We believed that cooperation and compromise could solve any problem." He gestured toward the colony below. "Then they decided that our children did not deserve homes on worlds we had built with our own hands. They decided that human expansion was a threat that needed to be stopped. They decided that we were too dangerous to be trusted with the freedom that every other species takes for granted." Beth waited quietly while Nathan gathered his thoughts. "Our terms are simple. We withdraw from the Galactic Council permanently. We establish our own confederation based on principles of mutual defense, free trade, and the right of self-determination. Any species that wants to join us is welcome, provided they meet our standards for individual rights and representative government. And species that do not want to join, they can continue to live under Council authority if they prefer. We have no interest in conquering unwilling populations." Nathan's expression hardened. "But any species that threatens our territory or harms our citizens will face the full military power of humanity. And as recent events have demonstrated, that is not a threat to be taken lightly." A communication device on Beth's belt chirped. Softly, she checked the message and looked up with surprise. "Sir, the Carillion Empire has just announced that they are withdrawing from the Galactic Council and requesting to join our confederation." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "The same Carillion Empire that lost 27 ships trying to stop our expansion?" "The same one. Apparently their military leaders were impressed by our tactical efficiency. They are offering their entire fleet to serve under human command in exchange for protection and membership in our confederation." More children ran past the observation deck, playing a game that involved trying to catch floating soap bubbles. Their laughter mixed with the soft hum of the colony's life support systems and the distant sound of construction as new buildings rose to house more families. "How many species have requested membership so far?" Beth checked her tablet again. 17 confirmed, with 12 more considering it. "Sir, at this rate, our confederation will have more members than the original Galactic Council within 6 months." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "Make sure our fleet positioning makes it clear to the Council that Morrison's terms are not negotiable. They had their chance to treat humanity fairly. Now they get to live with the consequences of choosing threats over diplomacy." "And if they refuse our terms?" Nathan looked out at the peaceful colony one more time, thinking about all the human worlds that were now safe under the protection of human guns and human determination. Then they will learn what it means to be irrelevant in a galaxy that no longer needs their permission to grow and prosper. The children below continued playing, unaware that their laughter was the sound of a new era beginning. The Galactic Council chamber had never held so many beings at one time. Representatives from nearly 50 species packed the galleries, floating platforms, and even the corridors outside, all wanting to witness what everyone knew would be a historic moment. Ambassador Jake Morrison walked to the central podium with the steady pace of a man who held the galaxy's future in his hands. Chancellor Vextar's crystalline form had lost most of its usual bright glow over the past months of crisis. His stress patterns were visible to anyone who knew how to read them. and his voice carried a tremor when he spoke. Ambassador Morrison, the Galactic Council is prepared to hear humanity's terms for ending the current hostilities. Jake placed a small data crystal on the podium's reader interface. Immediately, the chamber's massive display screens lit up with text translated into every major galactic language. The terms were written in simple, clear language that left no room for misunderstanding. Humanity hereby formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, Jake announced, his voice carrying clearly to every corner of the vast chamber. Effective immediately, we will establish our own governing confederation for human space and any species that choose to join us. The chamber erupted in chaos. Dozens of different species began talking, clicking, humming, and making other sounds of shock and dismay. Several delegates rose from their platforms, waving appendages and shouting in languages the translation system struggled to process. Vexitar's form flickered desperately as he tried to restore order. You cannot simply leave the council. The treaties we have signed, the agreements that bind our civilizations together for 3 millennia. The same treaties you violated when you attempted to force us to abandon our colonies? Jake's voice cut through the noise like a blade. The same agreements that apparently never applied to humanity when we inconvenienced your territorial claims. He gestured to the data displays showing humanity's formal demands. Furthermore, humanity claims sovereignty over all space within 50 light-years of any established human colony. Any species currently residing in those areas may remain under human protection, or they may relocate with full compensation for any losses. The Arcturian delegate's feathered crest stood fully erect in outrage. This is conquest disguised as protection. You are stealing half the galaxy. No, said a clear voice from the upper galleries. Ambassador Tella of the Minoran Republic stood up, her scaled form catching the chamber's artificial light. This is exactly what many of us have been hoping for. More voices rose from the packed galleries. The Draconis Federation representative stood up and announced his species' intention to join the Human Confederation. The free colonies of Vega followed, then the Independent Worlds Alliance. One by one, delegates from smaller species that had been ignored or dismissed by the Council for centuries stood to declare their support for humanity's new order. Jake watched the proceedings with satisfaction. This was not going according to the Council's plan at all. They had expected humanity to beg for forgiveness and accept whatever limitations the major powers decided to impose. Instead, they were watching their authority crumble as species after species chose human leadership over Council bureaucracy. The Human Confederation will operate on 3 basic principles, Jake continued when the noise died down. Mutual defense, free trade, and the right of self-determination. Any species may join provided they meet our standards for individual rights, representative government, and peaceful coexistence. He paused, letting his words sink into every mind in the chamber. However, any species that threatens Confederation territory or attempts to harm Confederation citizens will face the full military might of human forces. As recent events have clearly demonstrated, that is not a threat to be taken lightly. Chancellor. Vextar's form had dimmed to barely visible levels. What about the greater galactic community? 3,000 years of peace and cooperation? Jake smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. Peace built on the suppression of human rights and the assumption that we would always submit to your authority? Cooperation that only worked as long as humanity never challenged your decisions? That peace was an illusion, Chancellor. We have simply decided to stop pretending it was real. More species were standing in the galleries now. The Carillion Empire, despite having lost their entire fleet to human forces, announced they were joining the Confederation. The Beta Centauri Alliance followed. Even some individual colonies from Council species were declaring independence to join humanity's new government. This is madness, protested the hegemony representative, his slug-like form quivering with distress. You are destroying the foundations of galactic civilization. We are replacing failed foundations with something stronger, Jake replied calmly. The Council had its chance to treat all species fairly. You chose instead to create a system where the oldest and most powerful civilizations could dictate terms to everyone else. You chose to punish humanity for growing too fast and building too much. Ambassador Clicktar, who had remained silent throughout the session, finally spoke up. Ambassador Morrison, what assurances can you give that humanity will not simply become the new dominant power imposing its will on smaller species? Jake turned to face the insectoid delegate directly. The same assurance we have always given. Ambassador Clicktar, judge us by our actions, not our words. Every species in the Human Confederation will have equal representation based on population. Every member will have the right to withdraw if they choose. And every citizen will have individual rights that no government can violate. He gestured to the crowd in the galleries. Look around this chamber. How many species are here because they chose to come, and how many are here because the council required their attendance? How many have real voices in council decisions, and how many are simply expected to follow the lead of the major powers? The chamber was growing quieter as more delegates realized what was happening. This was not a negotiation or a peace conference. This was the end of the old galactic order and the birth of something entirely new. The galaxy has new leadership now, Jake announced as he gathered his materials to leave. We suggest you learn to work with us, because the alternative is to become irrelevant in a universe that no longer needs your permission to grow and prosper. As Jake walked toward the chamber's exit, he paused at the massive doors one final time, just as he had months earlier. But this time he was not walking away in defeat or anger. This time he was walking away as the representative of the new galactic superpower. The council wanted humanity to choose peace over vengeance, he said, addressing the silent chamber, one last time. You made one critical miscalculation. You assumed we saw a difference between the two. The doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. Outside, the human fleet waited among the stars, and scattered across dozens of worlds, humans and their new allies were already building the confederation that would reshape the galaxy forever. The age of council dominance was over, and the age of human leadership had begun.